when you have things that you're passionate about doing, is it keeps you young and keeps you vibrant and inspired. And I think it's key, as we get older, we have to keep active and we have to keep passionate about something, whatever it may be for you, because ultimately that's what really keeps you happy and full of joy, and I feel very blessed that for me it's storytelling and telling, making films.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I speak with fascinating people from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. To find out more about the podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get fun and quirky tidbits about the show and my exploits, including when I went python hunting in Florida and my participation in the National Senior Games. And if you love the podcast, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who was a previous guest on the show. Find out more at judybanker.com. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. Well, we have a real treat for you today. You already know that Zestful Aging Podcast profiles guests who contribute to the common good in all kinds of ways. Well, today's guest is a shining example of this. Veteran filmmaker Julia Verdin is an accomplished producer and award-winning director. She's established herself as one of Hollywood's leading independent producers with over 36 critically acclaimed feature films produced to date. She founded and has been running Rough Diamond Productions since 1995. And Julia is passionate about raising awareness on critical social issues through powerful medium of film and encourages filmmakers to think about making content that contributes to a better world. Today, we're going to talk about, among other things, her brand new film, No Address, which looks at the plight of homelessness all over the United States. Welcome to the show, Julia.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, firstly, for having me on your show.
You're very welcome. Oh, we're going to have fun, Julia, because we're kindred spirits in the things that we're interested in, and I've been following your work, and it's a real treat to have you on. Do you want to start with your newest venture, or would you like to talk about your long list of films, which include profiling or showing the lives of folks that are deaf, people who have been bullied, child trafficking, so many things? Where would you like to start?
Sure. Well, first of all, that I'd love to say that I think film can be such a powerful medium for inciting change, because when people go to the movies, they go for the experience, and if you get involved in a character's emotional story and it's set in a certain world or set around a certain social impact topic, audiences will often become interested in the issue and then want to know more. So the latest film that we're about to do is about the homeless crisis. And I'm sure that everybody on here has seen the growing amount of individuals experiencing homelessness all around their areas. And my hope with this film is that it will really serve as a reminder to people that there are human beings on our streets and they need help. And this issue of homelessness, it affects not just the individuals experiencing homelessness, but also the homeowners and business owners in the area too. So we need to find a good, humane and kind situation to deal with all of this.
That's really guided your work, Julia, is how do we bring humanity or love to these situations? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Very much so. I mean, the core of my film, No Address, it's about, we all have the choice whether we want to be helpful or heartless when we look at the situation of homelessness.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, because you certainly have covered many topics of social concern, where do you tend to land? I mean, there's so many things that we could look at. Is there a pattern in your mind about what you're drawn towards in particular?
I think from the research that I've done, and we also just shot a documentary called Americans with No Address, one of the things that became very clear to me, and I say this with all humility, because I'm just, a filmmaker, a storyteller who looks at a situation and creates a story around what I learn and see. I do not position myself to be an expert on homelessness or have all the solutions. We were very lucky in developing the screenplay that we had two experts, Dr. Robert Marbe and Philip Mangiano, who both read the script and gave feedback on it to make sure that we were telling an authentic story. Mm-hmm. And then to dig deeper and do more research, we went on a trip of 17 different cities and talked to both individuals experiencing homelessness and also the individuals running the various programs and shelters and other facilities that help with homelessness, as well as police and some government and city folk. And the takeaway for me was that what is really needed is both shelter and wraparound services for mental health and addiction. Mm-hmm. And that the issue of people remaining experiencing homelessness on our streets is not good for either the individuals experiencing homelessness or for the homeowners in the areas where tents are being put up, or for the business owners. So we need to find a viable solution that will help these human beings get back into becoming productive members of society. Mm-hmm. Whether they need help with their mental health, or help with addictions, or just help with getting a job and getting back on a good financial footing, and so they can get back into normal living. Because in my humble opinion, and from all the people that I've spoken to, I don't believe that anybody chooses to be a drug addict or chooses to live on the street.
Right. You're talking about compassion, and it's a very different orientation that I think we have had historically in the States, where it's a more of a punitive kind of perspective.
Well, in talking to a lot of individuals who've experienced homelessness, one of the big takeaways for me was so many people that have gone through heartbreak, that are on the streets because they've lost a partner and now can't afford to continue to pay rent on their own, or their partner's passed on and it's, life has just become too much and they haven't been able to keep up with bills and rent, or they're running from a situation that was very emotionally challenging from them. We have a lot of foster youth on the streets who are running from sort of an abuse situation, or have transitioned out of their foster accommodation but yet haven't developed the skills to be self-sufficient and be able to hold down a job and maintain an apartment. And so need some transitional help in doing that. You know, there are a lot of good organizations who do provide good transitional help, but there's also a lot of kids that fall through the cracks. We also have a lot of vets on our streets who have been struggling with PSD, and so have become addicted to some type of substance as a form of self-medication, and so need help from that. And then there are also people that have been through some type of abuse, and so their way of numbing out from the pain is self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And it is a challenge, because it's also very difficult when somebody is in the grasp of the addiction, as it were. It's often very challenging for that individual to be able to make a rational decision that they want to get off the streets and they want to get sober and they want to get back into living. So sometimes they need a helping hand to help them get to that point where they can make a decision.
Hi, everyone. Have you listened to my interviews with Dr. Bill Rawls? He's been on the show twice, and after I read his book on cellular health and learned about his high standards for quality control, I was sold. I placed an order for Vital Plan supplements immediately. And I encourage you to learn about his work by hopping over to vitalplan.com. If you enter Zestful15, they will give you 15% off your first order. I'm excited for you to try these products. I think you're going to be very impressed. Now back to the show. I'm curious, Julia, did you grow up in a household that was had similar values in terms of helping others that were less fortunate? Where did you absorb these life values?
Very much so. I grew up in England. In a nice home. We were always taught to be of service, in the local community, be involved in the local church. And for many years, I've done, and I still do volunteer work for various organizations. For example, the films that I've made about child trafficking were inspired by stories I heard from tragic stories of young teenagers that had been through the most horrifying situations when I was volunteering at a recovery shelter for runaway youth.
And how do you negotiate emotionally keeping yourself optimistic and healthy when you are hearing the deepest despair and the most ugly side of humanity?
It can be challenging. I remember one time when I went to Survivors conference when I was doing the film on child trafficking. I came home and literally felt like I had an emotional hangover the next day. I was absolutely exhausted and found it really hard to get out of bed. And it can be very tough, because sometimes if you're a little bit of an empath, as I am, that I care a lot about people and situations, when you take on you hear all these stories, and you feel the pain that those individuals are feeling, it does take an emotional toll on you. So same as when I was just on this trip going around all the various cities in America and talking to a lot of people experiencing homelessness and living on the streets, and hearing some of the stories of the abuse and horrific situations that they've been through was also heartbreaking. And it when I came back from shooting that documentary, I was absolutely exhausted for about a week afterwards. And again, I think a lot of it was an emotional hangover.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I deal with it, I do a lot of prayer, meditation, positive thinking. You know, I'm a great believer in that thoughts are only thoughts, and we can choose the thoughts that we are willing to entertain. So I do my best on a daily basis to try and catch myself and only entertain positive thoughts, optimistic thoughts, because that way I stay happy. And when I stay happy and I'm in a state of positivity, I'm able to be of service.
That's
I also do a lot of Kundalini yoga. A little known fact about me is that as well as being a director, writer and producer, I also have a Kundalini teaching certificate.
Oh, wow.
and it's a skill I will often use when I'm doing volunteer work. I'll teach a Kundalini class to the community because there's some of the meditations can be great for helping people to keep out of stress or elevate them from, help to release trauma or release grief and other things. And I found it key to my well-being. I do my best to try and do that on a daily basis, as well as do a morning walk and kind of really look around and see the beauty in the world around me and get into a state of gratitude and appreciation for the beautiful world that we live in.
To counteract some of the...
And it's important because, I know that I can't be of service and I can't go to those dark places and listen to those stories as a filmmaker to create authentic and compelling films if I don't also take care of myself. So when we're shooting, dark subject matter, like, for example, when I was making the film on child trafficking, I was very careful to keep a very upbeat, light atmosphere on set and keep a joyful atmosphere around, for those young actors that I was working with, and make sure that I made sure everyone was okay after every take, and lots of hugs and all the rest of it, because I felt that as the writer director, I felt very responsible for keeping my actors safe too, and and for the parent roles too, because I don't know if any of your audience have seen the film that I did, Angie Lost Girls. It is a tragic story about parents, whose teenage daughter is trafficked, and when they get her back, she has to really face that challenge, and for the parents, it's also a challenge too, because the daughter that comes back is very different from the daughter that they lost. And they have to work with her to help her refine her faith and refine herself to recover. Now, the film does have a happy ending because, you always want to leave your audience and stories on a good note. And if a topic is too dark, it won't be palatable for an audience. So with the film we're making, No Address, it will be good mainstream and inspiring entertainment, and it's about a group of people who, for different reasons, end up finding themselves on the street, and how they bond together and help each other and support each other to survive. And it's a wonderful story over courage over adversity. One of the characters is a foster youth, another one of the characters is a young boy who's run away from an abusive situation in the family. Another character is an older actress who's struggling with mild dementia. And so she's been taken in by this community who look after her and take care of her. And then the other two characters are both vets, and one of them has been in recovery for a while, and the other is struggling with addiction and needs help from the older, more senior vet in getting herself out of that cycle. And he's able to help her because he has been there himself and so understands her pain.
Mm-hmm. Julia, if I could switch gears for a moment, you have been in this business for quite a while. You've created 36 critically acclaimed feature films, and I'm wondering how it's been for you in Hollywood to be a woman and to not be a young woman anymore. What's that been like for you? What have you noticed in terms of how people perceive you and how you might perceive yourself?
I think the older I've got, the more centered and settled I've become, and actually, now I think I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the beauties of getting older is that you're able to let go of all that angst and worrying about people, what people think or what will happen or all that stuff. Am I attractive enough? Am I good enough? Am I achieving enough? That we tend to kind of go through in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And as you come into your 50s, you realize at the end of the day, you can't control anything. Life is just going to kind of happen on its own terms, and you're going to look how you look, and you if you've been fortunate to, as I've done, to have done a lot of work on yourself over those years, and really gotten to a place where you're comfortable with yourself, then you understand clearly that beauty comes from the inside. Mm. So I'm a lot less worried now at my age, about what I look like, if I look perfect. And the way I look at it, I want to age naturally with grace and dignity. I still like to kind of keep myself, being put together and always look nice and presentable. But I don't feel that pressure that I did when I was younger, that it's, I want to try and be the most glamorous person in the room, or that I need to spend like 3 hours overdoing my hair and burning it with curling tongs and whatever else. But I feel like I've just eased into myself, and I enjoy dressing up as much as the next person does. I enjoy, making myself look nice, but in a very relaxed way now. Mm-hmm. All that
interesting.
stress.
Yeah, you're really in the heart of it, being in Los Angeles. I wonder what it's like to have evolved into that freedom and be surrounded by people who are really fighting their age.
Well, certainly, one of the tragedies, I see girls in their 20s starting to do work on their faces now. Mm-hmm. And they're already beautiful. They don't need to do that work. I've also seen, other friends who've done a lot of plastic surgery, and it's almost like they don't look like themselves anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm personally a great believer that if you do Kundalini yoga, a little bit of jogging, it is the best anti-aging thing you could do, because it's really about getting the blood circulating around your body, And
also finding a passion that lights you up.
Exactly. It's when you keep when you have things that you're passionate about doing, is it keeps you young and keeps you vibrant and inspired. And I think it's key. As we get older, we have to keep active and we have to keep passionate about something, whatever it may be for you, because ultimately that's what really keeps you happy and full of joy, and I feel very blessed that for me it's storytelling and telling, making films and doing the little bit that I can to try and bring a highlight some of these situations that we have going on and hoping that it'll make a little bit of a difference.
Do you have some of your actors and folks who are starting to get into that middle age phase? Do you talk together about what it's like to age in Hollywood, and is that something that's discussed?
Oh, very, very much so. I think there is a pressure in Hollywood to kind of keep looking young, and there's certainly a lot more roles for younger actors than older actors, and certainly, like as an older director, and a lot of the kind of the programs and everything, and when there are opportunities to break into TV and other mediums, they tend to focus on younger generation who are at the start of their career. So it is a lot harder, sometimes for the people from that older generation to get opportunities. Yet, we have so much to give. And I think it's important for us as the older generation to just know that, what we can do and share all that wisdom and knowledge that we've built up from the years of work that we have done with that younger generation.
Do you feel solidarity with the other women in Hollywood that are of an older age? Do you have a group that I'm just wondering if there's a bonding?
I think there definitely is. I mean, I have a lot of other sort of filmmaker friends in my age range, and we all keep in touch and have lunch, and we all do what we can to help each other and support each other, and a lot of them, like me, are just very comfortable with themselves now at this point, and relaxed, and a lot of them are involved in doing non-profit work and looking at how they can kind of give back, and I think that's really nice.
It must be wonderful to be with people who really understand what's important to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Do you have any words of wisdom for women who are aware that they're no longer in their 20s or 30s or even 40s and are sort of struggling with this funny in between, and maybe feeling without purpose, without direction, and not knowing what the next step is for them?
You recommend getting into meditation, because I think learning to meditate and tapping into your own inner intuition as to what works for you is, writing about what do I love doing? What have I always wanted to do? What gives me pleasure? Because it's very easy to get caught on the hamster wheel of life and almost forget what it is that we enjoy doing, what it is that we love. And so to do the writing, to tap into reminding ourselves of that, and then find a way, to volunteer with a group involved in the world, or if you've always loved painting and haven't done that for a while, get into an art group. You love dancing, go take a dance class, or if you love working with being with children, foster homes, runaway children's shelters. There's plenty of children who would love to have your love and care and mentorship. singing, they're joining a local choir or church. When you're filled with joy, it'll keep you young. So you just got to keep filling yourself with joy.
Yes, indeed. What a pleasure to speak with you. Julia, do you want to talk a little bit about where people can find out more about your work, your production company, and what's coming up for you?
Sure, absolutely. You can check on our progress for No Address, the feature film, and Americans with No Address at the website noaddressmovie.com. So that's www.noaddressmovie.com.
Okay.
You can check on my trafficking films and find out where you can see those. There's Angie Lost Girls, and we have a new one coming up that'll be coming out next year too, Maya, at artists with an S, 4change.org. So that's artists with an S, the 4change.org.
Okay. Yep.
And my production company website is roughdiamondproductions.net.
I love that name. Oh, so nice to speak with you and so appreciate your work. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, and wishing you and all your audience and all the best for the new year.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.